Welcome to Connecting the Dots, a laser-focused, quick-fire interview on food and the economy with international experts where we seek answers to questions all of us should be asking. I'm Ajay Jakhar, Chairman, Bharat Krishik Samaj, Farmers Forum India, and also the Vice Chair of Action Track to Shift to Sustainable Consumption Patterns at the UN Food Systems Summit. We are delighted to have with us Hanneke Faber, President, Foods and Refreshment at Unilever. Thank you, Hanneke, for taking time out from extremely busy schedule to join us today. I commend you and Unilever for acknowledging that global food systems are broken and you are committed to address it. Until those who produce our food are profitable and sustainable and are paid full value for stewarding the Earth's resources, the food systems could remain broken. You and Unilever are the first private sector guest on Connecting Dots. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
You have committed to selling more plant-based products, enhancing nutrition, and reducing food waste. Can you start by telling us more about why it matters and your commitments and actions?
Yeah. So why it matters, I think, is very obvious to everyone. The world has 1 billion people who don't have enough to eat. 2 billion people are hungry or overweight or obese. We waste 1/3 of all the food that's produced, and our industry is responsible for 25% of the world's greenhouse gases. So as a big foods producer, Unilever has a real responsibility to be part of the change in the food system. So that's why we've put out a number of commitments that we need to live up to. So some are very specific to food. We've committed to €1 billion in plant-based sales, to halving our food waste, to doubling the number of products we sell with positive nutrition. But we've also committed to a number of larger things in the climate and nature space, in the plastic space, and in the space of living wages. So we've made all those commitments fairly recently in the last year, but of course, this is not a new thing. As Unilever, we've been working in these areas for a long, long time. And commitments are nice, but now we need to deliver on them. So I'm most interested in actually getting to action.
Great. So that's really encouraging. Critics of plant-based food state that it is just more highly processed food. As a farmer, I don't think it has to be. What are you doing to enhance sustainable consumption that includes access to fresh vegetables and fruits?
Yeah, no, it's a great point. I think what's really important is that we understand that it's the nutritional quality and not the level of processing of a product that determines its health impact. So processing is actually a really old practice that helps to preserve food. So even back in ancient times, people used fermentation and drying methods to keep their food for winter or for difficult times ahead. So a dried or a frozen vegetable or a herb is as healthy and often more hygienic than the unprocessed variety. So just think about, tea, for example, milk powder, tomato paste. It's just when we add too much sugar or salt or other additives and the nutritional profiles change that a product may become unhealthier. But let's not confuse that with processing per se. That's a very dangerous way to go. So at Unilever, we're really focused on continuously improving the nutritional quality of our food and beverage products. And we do that both by doing less, so reducing salt, reducing sugar, reducing fat, and by increasing the good, so adding proteins, fibers, vitamins, and minerals. And as you say, Ajay, increasing or motivating consumers to eat more fresh fruits and vegetables. So one nice example of that is Knorr with its Eat for Good campaign, which is really about helping consumers change what's on their plate and adding more vegetables, especially because there's almost no one in the world these days who eats enough vegetables. That's true in developed and developing markets. So through their campaign, Knorr is trying to help consumers to eat more variety, to eat more vegetables and less meat, and to eat more sustainably grown foods. And they've called that out in their Future 50 report, which they developed with WWF and some other experts. And it really pushes 50 foods that are simple, but that we don't eat enough of. Things like spinach, like kale, like orange, like beans, tomatoes, walnuts. And with Knorr's spices and seasonings, you can actually easily make those tasty and fun to eat. So that's what Knorr is all about. And indeed, as you said, eating more vegetables and fruits is really important for all of us.
That's encouraging. I'm a citrus farmer myself, and really encouraged by your answers. I also hear you say that businesses don't waste food. That fact may be true in when food is produced in the is processed in the factory, or when it doesn't sell in retail. But isn't it true that the food has become commoditized? The food in the center aisles is cheap and highly processed, so that it's wasted. It costs the planet a lot. But many big companies seem satisfied with the status quo, unlike your company, which is doing good. What do you think about the food industry's position, and what is Unilever doing?
Yeah, no, I think food waste really is a crime. And I don't use those words lightly. You know, by 2050, we have to feed 10 billion people on this planet. We actually could do it today with what we produce today if we weren't wasting a third of everything that's produced. So we have to reduce food waste. Now, it's important to understand, where does food waste happen? A lot of it happens downstream. So between the farm, the factory, and the store. So that's really where we have a joint responsibility, and where we've made a commitment to half what we waste in our part of that operation. But about 40% happens with the consumer. And I think that's what you're referring to. You know, companies are satisfied with the status quo because, you know, we don't care, we've sold it, and whatever the consumer does with it. That is absolutely the wrong attitude. So we are leveraging our brands to also hopefully change consumer behavior. And one great example, I think, is the Hellmann's brand. It's the biggest mayonnaise brand in the world. And they are spending their entire global marketing budget on a campaign called Make Taste, Not Waste, which is all about, you know, looking in your fridge and your pantry, seeing what's there, and not thinking, you know, that's old, or I don't know what to do with that, and throwing it away, which is what consumers do. But making something out of it. So that includes, you know, TV advertising, but a lot of recipe work online. We were on the Super Bowl in the US this year with the campaign, and I'm happy to also say that this Monday we kick off a program on the UK's Channel 4 with Ruby and Prue, which are two famous UK celebrities from the Great British Bake Off, which is all about clever use of food and not wasting it. So really, really important to also focus on the consumer. No one really wants to waste food, honestly. I have yet to meet a person who says, oh, I love wasting food. But people just often don't know what to do with those leftovers. So Hellmann's, the brand, will play a big role there, and already is.
I think you've got it right. And this is exactly what we are doing at the UN Food System Summit. I think so we need to focus on the consumer to drive change, not only on food waste, but even how farmers produce the food. And so the follow-up question is that Unilever has been doing to ensure, what has the Unilever been doing to ensure that farmers are profitable and sustainable, beyond just paying current market prices for produce, which may still be loss-making for majority of world's smallholder farmers?
Yeah, it's a great question, and one we, you know, I'm not going to pretend that we've completely solved it. So we have made a commitment that everyone in our supply chain will have a living wage by 2030. Of course, we pay all our direct employees a living wage already, but it's really about that longer supply chain and the smallholder farmers especially. So maybe I give you one example here as well, which is about tomatoes and India. So, which is fairly recent, but we're excited about what we're doing there. So India is the #2 tomato producer in the world. You no doubt know this. But the crop yields are relatively low. The quality is often inconsistent due to seasonality and monsoon as well. Only 2% of the tomatoes in India are processed. Worldwide, that's 21%, which obviously, you know, has an impact on waste. And as you say, most of these farmers have low incomes. At the same time, as Unilever, we need a lot of tomatoes in India for products like, you know, Knorr tomato soup, Kisan ketchups and sauces. So back in 2017, we were looking for another tomato processing facility. So we only had one, and we wanted to have another one in India because the distances across we were moving tomatoes were too large. And again, that led to a lot of waste. So we struck up a partnership with Sayadri Farms, which was already an existing farmer cooperative formed in 2011, includes about 10,000 farmers that grow a variety of crops, including tomatoes. And we actually built a processing plant at their facility. We literally taught the farmers how to run and maintain the machines. And we started sourcing tomatoes and tomato paste from them. That's been a real success for the farmers. We also, by the way, started working with the farmers in their towns and upskilling them on agricultural practices to improve the quality. So for the farmers, that has improved yield and it's improved incomes. For Sayadri, the company, it has assured demand because, again, we need lots of tomatoes, and we were able through this partnership to guarantee demand. And it's delivered more sustainable practices for their farmers. And for us, it's also been a real win-win-win proposition because we now have assured quality supply at scale of tomatoes. We save in distribution costs because we're right there at their facility. And we feel we have a positive both social and nature impact. And Sayadri Farms is now extending their model from the west also to the east of India. So that is one example of a real collaboration in India on a specific crop. We are looking in other places, especially in Africa, to see whether we can have more of these types of cooperations that benefit farmers and Unilever equally.
Great, because I mean, I've heard about it, but once this COVID situation improves, I'm definitely going to look it up myself. Thank you so much.
I'd love to go together, Ajay, because I also haven't been.
Yeah, so whenever you're coming next, just call for me. Staying on the question and answer on environment, switching to plastics. Single-use plastic sachets allow low-income consumers to buy small amounts of quantity produced that would otherwise be unaffordable for them. These products tend to provide hygiene or nutrition benefits, but the environmental impact hurts the poor the most. How does Unilever intend to solve this problem? And how do you even look at the life cycle impact assessment when you launch new products and packaging?
Yeah, Ajay, I wish I had a silver bullet for this one, but I don't. So I'll tell you what we're working on, because as you say, you know, those little sachets, they do allow consumers to buy small amounts of shampoos or soaps that would otherwise be unaffordable to them. So it's too easy to say, you know, let's just ditch those and not have these people have access to products that they do need. But we're working on a number of solutions to create a broader systems approach to reduce our dependence on these sachets. So first of all, there's business model innovation. So can we get away from the sachets altogether through things like refills and reuse? So we're running refill pilots where people actually come to, you know, a central location or a store to refill a bottle. That's one. Unfortunately, I have to say it's just more work for people, and we've struggled to get consumers to really buy into that. Second, the sachets themselves, we're moving increasingly to mono-material plastics, which are more easy to recycle, and to biodegradable solutions and other alternative materials. So, you know, just to make those products more easy to recycle. But then we also have to make sure that they actually get collected and recycled. So we've set a goal, including in India, to help collect more plastic packaging than we sell, including sachets. We're well underway with a number of municipalities and cities to actually put the collection programs in place so that we collect and then can recycle. And I think finally, we're also looking at new formats of products. So for example, can we do tablets instead of liquids and sachets that work as well as a soap or as a shampoo? to wash your hair or wash your body. So a lot of things in progress. We're very well aware that sachets, the way they're being used and thrown away today, are not a good thing, and it has to be solved.
And that's why it's very important that the first interview was with Unilever, because you are at the forefront of trying to make this change happen. It's difficult, but you are making an effort, and I think so the industry will follow. Coming, just last two quick questions. One is on Regenerative Agriculture Principles program that you have. Can you tell us something about it? Because farmers would want to know, and your commitment to paying farmers full value of their produce, so it gets them out of poverty.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've only just recently launched our new regenerative agriculture. And one of the 5 principles there is focused on farmers' livelihoods, because the world's, there's about 500 million smallholder farmers. They really face many challenges: limited training, lack of access to capital, low wages. So they're just very vulnerable. So we want to, and as part of these principles, help them improve their livelihoods through providing access to skills training, finance, and markets, as well as supporting income diversification and women's economic empowerment, because when you empower women, things tend to go better. And again, the Sahyadri farmers tomato case I just mentioned is a good example of that, and we really try and do more of that, both in India, but very much also in Africa and around Asia.
How does Unilever partner with big tech, big retail, and big ag companies to do more good than harm? Size matters, but size and scale is also scary. How do smallholder farmers and individual consumers trust that Unilever and big companies will do more good than harm?
Yeah, it's a great question, Ajay. And, we cannot do this alone. So we're very well aware that we have to collaborate and partner with both the big and the small. So the big would be, big organizations like the World Economic Forum, the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, the UN, and I'm delighted that you're leading one of the action tracks towards the UN Food Summit, and the EU, which honestly is making great progress with its Green Deal, and it's being quite bold in what it wants to do to change the European food system. So working together with these government and semi-government collectives is really important. Fortunately, a lot of our competitors do the same thing, so I'm very encouraged by that. We, of course, have to always be careful that we don't act anti-competitively, but it's great to see Nestle and PepsiCo and Coke, and others also be part of these communities. And then I think it's also really important to work with the small, because that's where things really happen. So that can be startups, smallholder farmers collectives, because again, it's very easy for us to be in an ivory tower in some big office building somewhere and forget where food really happens, which is at the farm and in much smaller companies. So again, delighted to be here with you today, because the farm is where it really, really happens.
Thank you so much. It's been really surprisingly and real forthright answers. It's straight to the point, and that's really great. I mean, it's really encouraging, and knowing that you have a passion for driving, I commend you for driving off the edge to commit and act on food systems transformation. Hope each of your brands acts and helps enhance farmer livelihoods. Thank you for connecting the dots, and I look forward to collaborating with shaping a healthier, more sustainable, and an equitable food systems for all. Thank you once again. Thank you so much for this interview.
Thank you, Ajay.
Thank you.